want to tell you some stories now about companies that are realizing that climate change may just not be the business to be in. This is sort of a reaction to the story Clayton just did, where, these sort of nefarious and not well-intentioned initiatives to reach some nebulous climate goal. This is where companies think, okay, people want us to be greener. We're going to, do some initiatives, figure out how to make our product greener, and we're going to do it. But then they don't really do the math first. They just release these press releases, say what they're going to do. And then when they go and do the math, they're like, that's not going to work. That actually will make things worse. So, the climate activists, they just insist on messing around first and then finding out later. For instance, we've talked to you about, plastic straws, plastic bags, all of these, and sort of good intentions gone wrong that make things worse. Well, now we're going to give you a few more. For instance, we've also talked about how electric cars have more rare earth minerals than gas-powered cars, how paper straws and paper bags are worse for the planet, how electric cars cause more carbon emissions because of the power they require from water-intensive and sometimes coal-driven power plants. Well, today, 3 new examples of this happening and companies sort of pumping the brakes a little. So maybe there is hope for humanity yet. First one is Lego. Second one is Lufthansa. And the last one is Ford. So first, 2 years ago, Lego said that they would experiment with new material for their bricks. Now they have said, we can't do that. It actually would be worse for the environment if we do this. Here was their announcement in June of 2021. I'm going to talk over it. You can just watch what they're saying here is hey, look, here's some normal bricks, but this is made from recycled plastic, PET bottles. So what they did was take a bunch of recycled plastic and pulverize the crap out of it and then turn it into Lego bricks. At the time, they said we were having a problem with it not just being snappy enough, because if you've ever played with Lego, it's got to snap off easily. It's got to be pretty durable. And it's got to hurt your foot when you step on it in the middle of the night when your kids leave it out. The very specific needs, right, of Lego. Here is how Lego said that their sustainability journey would go. Can we just go right to the next slide? Is that 2014, we started loving the planet. We started hugging some trees. We started doing these things. We had our buildings. And then 2021, it says, we unveiled this new initiative where we're going to use recycled plastics. Well, now we can fast forward to 2023 and they say, can't do that. CEO Niels Christensen told the Financial Times that this recycled plastic bit would lead to higher carbon emissions over the product's lifetime and would have required basically a whole new factory. So that also would be worse for the planet to abandon old factories, build new ones, and then take these composite materials and turn them into new materials. He said in the early days, the early days meaning 2021, the belief was that it was easier to find this magic material or this new material, but doesn't seem to be there. He says, we've tested hundreds and hundreds of materials. It's just not possible to find a material like that. Lego is made from plastic. That's kind of the way it's got to go. This is because when you take those flimsy plastic bottles that, you drink soda out of or what have you, you reinforce it into a Lego. It's a really heavy duty industrial process. It's just not as easy as all that. So they say they're going to keep looking. But for right now, they promised us 2 years. They can't do it. They're scrapping that idea. So instead, they'll plant some trees in Vietnam. So that's nice. In a similar vein.
Biden can visit them next year, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But here's the thing, though. They found out that when you still step on these Legos, they hurt like hell.
The recycled plastic ones?
Yeah.
You think they
that
still do?
That was the only test that passed.
Probably.
They had parents walk into the room and step on Legos and son of a. Yeah, well, that passed. But the clickiness didn't work.
Who amongst us has not had that experience of stepping on your kids' toys in the middle of the night, Lego? In a similar vein, the CEO of Lufthansa Airlines admitted that going green would require up to half of Germany's electricity. So not green at all then. He said this in response to this Refuel EU initiative. This is a mandate that the EU has rolled out that vehicles in the EU will use sustainable aviation fuel. We're calling that SAF. That's an acronym. Okay. And reduce practices that contribute to pollution by using this SAF with a minimum target of 70% used by 7050. Now, SAF, this sustainable aviation fuel, is synthetic fuel. This is something that they're trying to bait and switch us with, and I'm calling BS on it because we've shown you that synthetic fuels actually have a higher carbon footprint than fossil fuels. Here's a 2017 Princeton study we showed you a couple months ago. It showed that synthetic gas might burn cheaper inside a house, but it would increase CO2 emissions because it's hard to make, like recycled plastic material from other recycled plastic material. So now in Germany, they have said, well, we're going to roll back this ban on gas-powered cars and this mandate that everyone drive EVs by a few more years. And in the meantime, everyone will have to use synthetic gas instead of traditionally farmed fossil fuels. Only that's worse. Now, the aviation industry is being told the same thing. You don't have to go electric. We know that wouldn't keep planes in the air, but use these synthetic fuels without any calculation of where do they come from? How do we get them? Well, the CEO of Lufthansa is saying, yeah, we would need to take all of them because it's so hard to make. They don't just come out of the ground. There would be so little of it. We would have to use fully half of all the electricity in Germany, he says. We'd need half of Germany's electricity to create enough of the fuels we'd need to keep flying. And he doesn't think that this climate minister is going to give him that. So it's not going to work. Speaking later at an industry event, he said this about decarbonizing travel. From today's point of view, it won't work to have even the availability of the quantities that are demanded of us, not to mention the high cost that in the end the passenger will have to bear. Because again, synthetic fuels have to be made. They're not taken from the ground. They're even more processed. And so there would be so little of it. It definitely wouldn't be for you. And it's harder on the environment. So here's an industry leader saying these climate policies, they're not going to work. We got to go back to the drawing board. So will the world listen? It does seem like they are because of these rolling back of EV mandates and politicians saying, I don't think I can set this in motion as early as we had hoped, or maybe not at all. And then some companies are just rolling back on their EV initiatives, and they're not necessarily saying why. Here's Ford today saying that it will pause construction of a $3.5 billion plant to build EV batteries in Michigan. But here's the explanation they gave. No explanation. We're not being specific about why. There are a number of considerations. We're not being specific about what they are. So they're not going to tell us. What we think it probably is that the plant was scheduled to open 3 years ago and employ 2,500 people. But the batteries would use this alternate chemistry from the nickel-rich batteries that dominate the U.S. market, according to the Financial Times. They cannot go as far on a single charge, but they cost less. I don't think anyone really wants to make either of those sacrifices. Ford says that because of this, they're going to lose $4.5 billion on its EV business this year alone. So these are just examples of how when you rush progress for the sake of the climate, you lose. Again, researchers have shown over and over again that climate emissions take care of themselves through the natural course of innovation. We have seen that in many industries. The U.S. and Germany have already peaked at climate emissions years ago. Yeah, go ahead, David.
I was going to say, except back in the, 80s, 90s, didn't we fix the ozone layer by getting rid of hairspray? Didn't that work?
And styrofoam.
Right. It's all fixed. Yeah. All fixed now.
We completely fixed it.
Okay, yeah. Good. Forgot about that one.
Holes in the ozone layer anymore. Like they don't talk about.
I think we covered that on the show. I think it healed.
You don't hear about it because. Yeah, well, actually, it did help. Like the banning of the CFLs actually did help. or CFCs, the chlorofluorocarbons actually did help. I mean, it was one of those things where it's not every problem is a major problem, but sometimes it is, and that was one that like can actually be looked at as a success.
Yeah.
Like that's why you don't hear about the hole in the ozone anymore, because it actually kind of repaired itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's great. All right. So, you know, you don't want to feel too good about yourself when you campaign for paper straws or recycled Lego or synthetic fuel. Synthetic fuel is going to be a mess. You guys, we're going to hear about this a lot, and it's going to be a mess. The answer is somewhere, like the ozone answer, but it's not in those things.
Well, we've already had the disaster, of course, of corn and corn-based fuels, so we already know.
Oh God, yeah, we've talked all about that.
Ethanol.
Yeah. Ethanol is also a wreck, and it wrecks your car as well. So we'll let Kermit the Frog have the last word on this, is that it's not easy being green.
Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.